as a musician is to make everyone aware of his own divinity. Here we have the same sin that caused Adam and Eve to fall, being brought back into basically pop culture, subtly through the music that Carlos Santana here is producing. And that's the message he's trying to give, to get everyone to remember their own divinity. And we know that's the exact reason why Adam and Eve fell, because Satan said, "You will become like gods." In the Rolling Stone magazine in 2000, he says, "Metatron wants something from me, and I know exactly what it is. The people who listen to music are connected to a higher form of themselves. It's a personal invitation from me to people. Remember your divinity." There we have that same Luciferian language again. So do artists like Santana have an agenda? I believe they do. Well, is this just related to the whole kind of grunge rock kind of scene? Or does it extend outside that? Let's have a look at some other well-known artists from the whole hip-hop and rap scene. And we'll see the same thing over and over again. Has everyone here heard of Eminem? Yeah, some have, some haven't. Well, Eminem was like a big rap star. You could say he was one of the first really big white rap stars to come on the scene. And I was very heavily into his music when I went through my rebellious stage when I was younger. Now, he's not just some little figure as well. As you can see, Eminem, he broke the record by selling 1.6 million albums within a week. So the kids love him in America. So he's not just some little musician star. So what kind of role model is Eminem to all these kids that he sells his music to? What kind of fruits does Eminem show? Here are some of his lyrics. He says, "Follow me and do exactly what the song says. Smoke weed, take pills, drop out of school, kill people, and drink." Some role model, huh? And you wonder why there are so many shootings amongst young kids these days. Eminem actually said in one of his SMS messages that he sent, which was published, he said, "I'd be lying if I said I didn't think I was a role model to kids. Kids look at me like I'm a god." So even people like Eminem know how much power and influence they have over these kids. But regardless of that, they still make sure they preach such a harsh message to these kids and get them to rebel as much as they can. And here's a little quote underneath there saying, it was by a bunch of street kids, you could say. They said, "Eminem's our Christ. We party in his name." Now, people like Eminem have a lot of power amongst the youth, and there was actually this time where I think Eminem, he committed some kind of crime. I'm not too sure on the details, but the people in the court actually brought him in, and they started to do the trial and stuff like that. And all the kids in the community began to rebel, and they said, "If you don't release Eminem, we're going to start tearing up the town, we're going to start burning things and rioting." So eventually they let him off. Where's justice these days? Here's another SMS message that was published. He said, "They're into hurting themselves. They're cult people, devil worshippers, who say I'm right next to Satan in their thoughts." Yes, okay, Eminem. Here we have another example of another rapper called Eazy-E. Now, not too many people, maybe not here in Australia, have heard of him, but he was a really big rapper in America and back in kind of the 80s and 90s, and I believe he actually died of AIDS now, which is a shame because who knows if he ever found Christ. But I'm going to show you a little example how a lot of these people actually have, like, they're in the know. They don't just say they're into occult things and they're into satanic things. They actually have quite a bit of knowledge about all of this, and we're going to have a look and see why. Eazy-E, in one of his songs, actually sings, "Heaven in art which Father our, our Father which art in heaven. Now, it wouldn't seem like much to the untrained eye, because and most of you will know that this is a verse out of Scripture. But it's very interesting what he actually does to this verse in Scripture, especially in that first line, where he sings it in reverse. Now, why is this so important? What difference does it make? Well, Aleister Crowley, who was one of the major occultists of the 19th century, actually wrote in his book, "Let him learn to write backwards, walk backwards, listen to phonograph records reversed. Let him practice speaking backwards, let him read backwards." So these people subtly hide these things in their music. They basically admit to those who are in the know in the occult and stuff like that, who they're really worshipping, through these subtle little hints. And one thing, why do they brag about these things or hide them? Well, you just have a look. Satan has always been a bragger ever since creation. And he has always tried to exalt himself. And he tends to hide it a lot these days, but he still has to put that one little bit in there just to try to brag. But this is just a subtle way how Eazy-E actually showed what he was into. And he was obviously into a lot of Aleister Crowley occult teachings. And if anyone has ever seen the testimony of Roger Morneau, they would know that when Roger Morneau actually went to a lot of the temples that he would go to, where they would actually be actively involved in satanic worship, into the actual rooms they'd go into, they would actually sing hymns backward. And this was actually a form of blasphemy for God, or against God, and that's why they'd do it. So here, Eazy-E is subtly blaspheming God. Here's another big artist for our time, Snoop Dogg. And I know a lot of kids have heard of him, and he has a lot of influence in the MTV kind of community. He's always on there. He's always promoted in commercials, in parties, and all those kind of things. So he's not just some little player. Everyone kind of likes Snoop Dogg. Even people who are into rock like Snoop Dogg in America. Here's just one of his album covers. Now it's very interesting. It's subtle, but once again we have this hidden game, and we have this pyramid shape, and on top of the actual pyramid is a serpent. Now, if you know occult teachings, they actually teach that basically this earth, you could say, Satan's kingdom, is basically a pyramid structure, and on the top there's an all-seeing eye. And that's basically Lucifer, or a symbol of Lucifer. And here, in Snoop Dogg's album, he's subtly saying the same thing. But let's have a deeper look. Here we have one of Snoop Dogg's video clips. And it's interesting if like, you ever see the video clip, which I don't recommend anyway, but in this video clip, it's a picture of Snoop Dogg, and he's actually, something happens to him, and he's in a hospital bed, and then suddenly this being appears above him and whispers into his ear, and he kind of shakes his head, and as this being's whispering into his ear, he sees a picture of him in a mansion, and he's in a spa with all these girls, and then suddenly when he shakes his head, this being then brings a sheet to him, and he signs on it. Then suddenly, instantly, he appears at this place, and he's suddenly owning all these mansions, and he's got all these girls around him. And that's taken from this video clip. But in there, he pretty blatantly shows that he's selling his soul. But in the video clip here, we see a Bible, or I don't know if it's a Bible or an altar or whatever it is, but there's an upside-down cross on it. Now, what's the importance of this? Well, here we have it from Professor J.S. Mallon. He actually says, "This cross is not broken, but turned upside down. It indicates the rejection of Jesus Christ and contempt for the gospel of salvation." So does Snoop Dogg secretly know who he's really worshipping? Yeah, it's a shame. So many artists are like this, and so many of these artists could use their gifts and their talent for the glory of God, but they don't. And we see millions of kids just falling aside, falling in the wayside, because they follow and they worship these artists and these stars. Another artist, once again, another modern big name rapper of our time, DMX.